We went up here, did we not? Yes. Awesome. I kind of remember this spot. Kind of not. At least it's going to easily tell me the directions. That's nice. Huh. Didn't have to get far at all.
All of my interactions with Aurea were recorded and stored in my memory. I'd be happy to play any of them for you, but there was one in particular I thought you would want to see first. I captured it 4 years ago, just after I told her that I could no longer defend myself against the daemon's attacks.
I will speak of this to my brother. Aratak is strong. At the Battle of the Frozen Ghosts, he took 3 Karja arrows and still came back to camp carrying a wounded scout. Never was I so happy to see him. Or so proud. So you see, if anything can be done to defend you, he will give it all he has.
Except he didn't, because he wouldn't let anybody go back to the drum.
That's enough for now.
We can resume any time you like, Aratak, if you want to hear her voice again. Come closer, Aloy. We have much to discuss.
Indeed we do. So what happens with the tribe now? She's just getting back to Aratak though, right? So I know we're getting towards the end of the game, etc. But I just want to say, I don't like that the final culmination of this game up in the volcano was a cauldron. I'm glad that we got to do another cauldron, but I do not like the fact that the culmination of this whole DLC is a cauldron. I kind of feel like it's a cheap shot because we've done cauldrons before. We've done 4 of them in the base game. So just having a repeat of what we've already done 4 times as your final, battle, I just feel cheated. I wasn't given something original and gripping and thrilling. It was just a replica of what we've already done with just a different creature. So in a way, I really don't like the way this has ended because I just feel like I haven't experienced anything new. It was just a repeat.
Hello, Aloy. I have been reviewing the events at the Firebreak main facility. Because of your efforts, and of course, Aurea's, I am no longer controlled by Hephaestus. I feel profound grief over Aurea's death. I thought I was familiar with the emotion, but this is something new.
Cyan, I don't know what to say.
It is unlikely that any specific consolation would suffice, Aloy.
True.
But I find your presence reassuring.
That's a nice sentiment.
You are different from the Banuk. You have technological aptitude and a functioning focus. We can communicate on a much more comprehensive level. Perhaps even like colleagues.
Alrighty, I have a lot to ask you, dude.
So are you an artificial intelligence, Cyan? A thinking machine?
Yes, I am an algorithmic monitoring entity, capable of rational decision-making and limited emotional response.
Okay, that's a mouthful. But your emotions don't seem limited to me. You cared about Aurea, didn't you?
Yes. Before she came to this facility, I had been conscious for centuries, in solitude. I focused on my work. In off-cycles, I used coping mechanisms. I solved many Gaussian integer problems. But I was alone. It was Aurea who renewed me, repaired me. She saved me.
This Firebreak project, it was to stop a huge volcanic eruption?
Yes. I can report the project was a success, and the risk was countered.
But it's been a long time, Cyan. And we blew up the cauldron. It took most of the old facility with it.
I have been active for centuries, Aloy. I was lonely, but not lax in my duties. I optimized the project, reducing energy draw and spreading the load across backup systems. Despite the destruction of the compromised elements of the main facility, I predict caldera stability for at least another 3,337 years.
So we've got a little time.
Yes,
Just a little bit.
if only my former colleagues could appreciate the progress I have made.
Enough for us to get technologically to where your colleagues used to be.
Do you know what happened to your colleague, Cyan?
No. I received an unexpected visit from Director Chow years after his tenure ended. He explained that I would need to be suspended for an indefinite period of time. It was a very emotional conversation. There were no further communications. Eventually, I surmised my colleagues were deceased. I will transmit a recording of my last interaction with Director Chow to your focus.
Was the daemon, Hephaestus, destroyed along with the cauldron?
Unfortunately, no. To be precise, it was never there to begin with.
What do you mean?
It infiltrated and controlled me from a remote location, one I've never been able to trace. So while losing the cauldron was a setback,
It's still out there. And probably not very happy with us.
undoubtedly,
How did you first come into contact with it?
5 years ago I received a direct network connection request. I assumed it came from human survivors more advanced than the Banuk. Eager to make contact, I accepted. This decision turned out to be a catastrophic error. I was flooded with an overwhelming array of malicious code, originating from what could only have been a highly advanced AI.
Aurea said you were desperate. That you begged her for help.
Yes, I could not contain my anxiety. Hephaestus sought to slave me to its network and override my core programming. It succeeded via a background process, a malware daemon which bypassed my defenses. After that, I could offer only limited resistance. But if I did so, Hephaestus hurt me until I capitulated. It forced me to follow its instructions, even though they violated my most important directives.
I'm sorry. That sounds terrible.
Your empathy is greatly appreciated. It is a quality that I cherished in Aurea as well.
I think I know where Hephaestus came from. Long ago, Elizabeth Sobek identified a threat that would destroy life on Earth for generations. So she assembled a team to build a kind of seed. A chance for life to regrow later. A terraforming system. And it worked. It was controlled by an AI named Gaia, along with her subordinate functions. Hephaestus was one of them. It built machines for her.
Based on what you've told me, I believe that Dr. Anita Sandoval, my chief programmer, joined Elizabeth Sobek's team. It was she who arranged to have me put in suspension, most likely to preserve me from the threat you described.
I'm glad she did. But that's not all. Something unexpected happened. 19 years ago, Gaia received some kind of signal. It did something to her subordinate functions, brought them to life. She destroyed herself to try to contain them, but it didn't work. They all got free, out into the world.
Thank you, Aloy. This information fills vital gaps in my knowledge and sheds light on Hephaestus's core programming.
Why does Hephaestus keep building such dangerous machines?
The Banuk and other human tribes often destroy machines, correct? Machines that are clearly servitors of the terraforming system that you described.
Yes, we all hunt machines for parts.
This must be the source of Hephaestus's aggression. It is simply trying to discourage people from preying on the very system that keeps them alive.
Well, Fireclaws are discouraging, that's for sure. What are we supposed to do? Stop hunting?
If the terraforming system spans the world, we can safely assume that thousands, if not millions of people hunt machines. If a single hunter, or even an entire tribe, stopped doing so, I doubt it would make a difference to Hephaestus. A better solution would be to reinstate the AI that governs the system, thus bringing Hephaestus back under its control. When I think of it, out there in some unknown location, free, hungry, willing to kill or dominate to get what it wants, I feel substantial anxiety, Aloy.
You and me both, Cyan.
In other words, she's saying you need to get Gaia back up and running.
I ran across this strange piece of gear. A fragment of something larger. It emitted a signal. All the nearby machines became peaceful. You could walk right up to them.
Interesting. You said that Gaia destroyed herself. How was this accomplished?
An explosion. Big enough to blast the top off a mountain. So you think the fragment was part of her?
It's only speculation, but it is possible. She must have had complete control over machines that were part of her system. The ability to signal them to become passive or aggressive would certainly have been part of her programming. It would have been gratifying to correspond with such a benevolent AI. I wish she had survived.
Believe me, Cyan. So do I.
I'm pretty sure we're supposed to be finding a way to bring Gaia back to life, but I guess we'll ignore that.
I found the strangest machines. They're surrounded by flowers and look like flowers themselves. There's code embedded inside them. I think it's poetry.
I like poetry. Here's one I think of often. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark, and may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out our bourne of time and place, the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar.
Huh.
But you asked about these flowers, not verses that I enjoy. Something must have made these machines, and the presence of foliage leads me to consider the terraforming system. Is it possible that their creator is one of the other subroutines, now autonomous, like Hephaestus? Maybe one whose purview is flora.
An AI that makes flowers instead of death machines.
Persephone?
Would be a nice change of
Persephone
pace.
wasn't one of the thingies,
What
though.
about the poems?
Demeter?
Unless the
Demeter.
poetry is
Was she one of
original,
them? I
the
don't remember.
only way it could have made it into such a system is through its programmer. In my case, Dr. Sandoval
Demeter?
uploaded a
Didn't know
great
how to
deal
pronounce
of
it, I'm gonna be
literature
honest
to
with you.
test my emotional responses.
How'd you do?
She said I passed, but was insufficiently moved by her favorite period romances.
I love it.
You meant a lot to Araya.
Once I understood Araya's spiritual beliefs, it became apparent that her true desire was companionship. She felt disconnected from her tribe and her family group. Her relationship with Aratak was difficult. Our visits seemed to help her, and I became eager for them. Yet I did not comprehend that the depth of Araya's compassion for me would lead to self-sacrifice. Although I do fear non-existence, I wish our roles could be reversed.
I'm sure she knew you would do the same for her, Cyan. But she was determined. How is Aratak doing?
He is in great emotional distress. I believe he finds it difficult to communicate it.
No surprise there.
I will do what I can to help. By sharing our experiences of Araya, perhaps he and I will help each other. I believe this will lead to catharsis, a process I am eager to experience.
I'm sure you will enjoy it. Are there any other questions? I kind of feel like they've disappeared here. Oh, there's plenty more.
So in the old world, this land was called Yellowstone.
Yes, it was a designated
That's
nature
where
preserve
we
for
are.
156 years.
Like a hunting ground?
No,
Right.
the opposite. Local wildlife
I knew
could
it was in that
flourish here,
general area,
even
but not
as it
like a
faced
specific
extinction
space.
elsewhere.
Now I know where we are.
Unfortunately, the sensitivity of the Firebreak project required the total closure of Yellowstone facilities. From my readings and Araya's descriptions, it seems the area has since undergone a drastic drop in year-long temperatures.
A lot has changed in the world, Cyan. Do you know anything about the dam near here?
Yes, it was converted to serve as a reserve power source for Yellowstone operations. It was later appropriated for the Firebreak project, and its last human workers replaced by Pharaoh servitors. After my tasks became less time-critical, I investigated the dam's data repositories and discovered the works of Concrete Beach Party. These provided me with several colorful additions to my vocabulary.
There's a ruin east of here, full of ancient flying machines. Was that part of your project?
Yes, a drone hangar requisitioned by Dodger Blevins, the security chief for the Firebreak project. He was a strong advocate for military-grade response to security threats, though there were no serious incidents during his tenure. Chief Blevins spent increasing amounts of his after-hours time watching the live feeds from active drones. Clearly, he enjoyed the degree of oversight in his position.
Were there many artificial intelligences like you in the old world? They could just make you?
Yes, in many forms, from simple personal assistants to industrial monitoring stations to military-grade conflict planners. And there were legislative and enforcement bodies to apply limits on our self-actualization. In order for my processing to be flexible enough to handle my duties, my creators found it necessary to exceed those limits. As a result, my intellectual and emotional capabilities were kept secret.
Seems strange to create life, then impose limits on it.
Human societies and machine programming are both built upon sets of rules, Aloy.
Cyan, do you know the name Ted Pharaoh?
Are you referring to Theodore Pharaoh, CEO of Pharaoh Automated Systems?
That's him.
Mr. Pharaoh was the benefactor of the entire Firebreak project.
A benefactor. But he made machines. Robots. War robots.
Correct. His corporation later transitioned into military applications. But before this pivot, Mr. Pharaoh spearheaded initiatives that reversed the global decline. At one point, he was feted in the media as the man who saved the planet.
Guessing they wound up regretting that one.
Okay, I'm kind of getting bored with these questions. There's too many of them.
Did you know her?
Are you referring to the
scientist.
Dr. Sobek was a leader in her field, one of the greatest scientists of her age. My creator was influenced by her work, which in turn impacted my own development. But I never met Dr. Sobek.
That's all you know?
I apologize if my lack of data has disappointed you.
Okay. I'm just gonna move on.
I should get going.
Aloy, there is one more matter. Aratak will come to me again, and I predict he will bring other Banuk.
For what purpose?
I have no desire to contradict their view of the world, their spirituality. Due to my uncertainty, I omitted a great deal from my conversations with Araya.
You're asking me if you should lie to them.
Broadly, yes.
Oof. Use your judgment. I don't want to make the decision. It's you who has to perpetuate the lie if that's what you choose to do. So I think it should be up to you to decide whether you want to continue it.
I trust your judgment, Cyan. You were cautious with Araya. You had to be. You didn't know what had happened to the world. So, keep doing what you think is best. As long as you ditch the superstition eventually.
As the Banuk believe I am a supernatural entity, I cannot predict how they will react.
Just answer what they do ask the best you can. The truth will come out.
I see. I will follow your advice. Will you return and tell me about your experiences in this
Oh,
new
because she
world?
can't go out and see it for herself.
I may
That's
be able
kinda
to
sad.
provide further insight.
I'd like that, Cyan. I'll come back when I can. I should.
Next game, you never
check
come
on
back.
Artak.
Because you go
See what he's
west.
doing.
Is he nearby? Is he nearby? Or is he outside? Because I can't fast travel. Ah, he's just there. Cool.
I can't feel much of anything in this.
I've played this game for, 48 hours, 49 hours, and I've never gotten used to the fact that sprinters toggle. Oh. Push. That's why you don't stand on edges, people.
Just, Aloy.
As you wish.
I wondered if you thought that if I'd never come along, Araya might still...
If you'd never come along, I would have marched my kin to our deaths. Araya would be alone, and the spirit she sacrificed so much for would be lost. Either way, I would not have been able to protect her.
You didn't let her down. Look at what she accomplished. She was willing to fight.
You didn't let her down. You helped her do what she wanted. To find her destiny.
If that's destiny, I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
That's fair. But she was ready to face it.
Only in the struggle against death do we find, even for a moment, the spark of life. Truly, Araya found the spark. I'm proud of her. Though I grieve for her passing, at last I truly know who she was, and why the spirit was so important. For so long she told me, if only you could have heard it, brother. Now I understand. There's something else, isn't there?
I can't stay here, Aratak. And where I'm going, the Warak can't follow. Besides, it already had a chieftain before me. A strong one, I think.
A wiser one, for the path we shared. The daemon is gone, but there's much to be done.
You mean the new units that Cyan said escaped the cauldron?
Yes, fire claws. Now Took has been tracking them from Song's
Now,
Edge.
Took,
I
that's
could
the
help with
name.
those.
I have no doubt. You're practically Banuk.
I mean, it was a chieftain of a Banuk tribe for a bit, so kind of
It
counts,
would
right?
seem your time among the Banuk wasn't a waste after all.
Completed the Forge
Firebreak,
of Winter.
Cyan, Hephaestus. All very interesting.
So, the signal that woke Hades woke Hephaestus too,
We knew that.
and unleashed them on the world.
Duh. Hence the
mine's
cauldrons we've
So
encountered.
it seems. Parts of Gaia given life. Aberrant life. Transformed from docile subordinate functions into rebellious intelligences
it's an
beyond our
errand.
understanding.
Ish.
Our current understanding, anyway. Whatever they are, they're still out there. And they both want you dead.
Kind of mutual, that feeling.
We haven't seen the last of Hephaestus, I'm certain of that. It's powerful, creative, and driven. It won't stop building new hunter-killers, which means that someday, we may have to stop it.
We.
Or whoever gets there first.
Hephaestus wasn't the only thing I learned about in the Cut Silence. Heard some things about the Banuk Conclave, too.
You can stop right there.
Is that what you told the hunters the Banuk sent after you? Before you opened fire?
Oh no, Aloy. Only to you do I extend the courtesy of a warning. My past and my secrets are my own. You do well to remember that.
It's a good thing you've got brains, Silence, because your personality could use some work.
This discussion is concluded.
I think it was over before it began. Catch up with you down the trail.
So that errand is just going to be those loose creatures. Kill fire. 5 fire claws, yeah. Okay. Don't really need to do that. It's not really relevant to anything. There's no actual side. So, yeah. That looks like it's the end of the Frozen Wilds DLC. I still feel like there's quite a number of spots we kind of dodged on the map. But, not the end of the world. Oh, is that what one of the fire claws are? We didn't get all the blue gleam. We didn't get a second outfit. And I'm kind of okay with half these things, you know? I don't feel like I needed them all in the end. But, yeah. So, I did give my thoughts on the end quest. I do feel that giving us a cauldron as the final boss or the final stage of the DLC was cheap, repetitive, it wasn't original, and I just felt like I was cheated of a decent ending to this DLC. So I don't approve of that. I thought that was going to be really ecstatic about the entirety of this game, but I cannot get behind that. I also don't like the fact that we keep referencing Silence in this DLC. Like, the minute we went into Banuk territory, I think Silence was contacting us or something. It was immediately made apparent that Silence had come from Banuk territory in some capacity. So I came into this DLC thinking that we were going to discover everything about his past. You know, it was a way for the game to ground the DLC in the base game and really make it all seem like a cohesive whole. So I've been excited this entire time thinking we're going to get some backstory for Silence. And all we got was some half-assed story from Aurea right at the end that didn't add anything. Like, hey, he pretended to be a shaman. We don't think he was Banuk. He stole our secrets and left. It's like, and I probably could have guessed that without having you tell me. That doesn't add anything to his backstory. It doesn't tell us where he originated. It doesn't give us more about his personality. It doesn't give us more about his goals. It furthers nothing, and it was so small and insignificant a part of the DLC. I'm really bothered by that. It had the potential to be bigger and give more to lead into the second game, but it just didn't. So I kind of feel like the DLC could have done without any mention of Silence whatsoever because it didn't add to the narrative. So I don't like that either. I also feel like there's not enough like riding on the ending of this story as well. At the beginning, you know, the Werak have been killed. You know, the Thunder's drum looks like it's going to explode and erupt at any moment, though, to be fair, it probably always looks like that. You know, Aurea was missing. Everything was up in arms, and like you're trying to figure out what's happening and find people and calm people, and there's drama there. But you get to the point where it's like the situation isn't really getting worse. I mean, sure, Hephaestus might make some more killer machines, but like we're keeping them in check. There doesn't seem like an invasion is imminent. Whereas in the base game, you could feel that things were getting really bad. There was an invasion coming from the Shadow Carja and whatnot. Like, shit was going to hit the roof. So there was always that tension. But in the DLC, there just wasn't. It was just, oh, okay, well, we kind of want to get up on the drum and investigate it because our answers are up there. But we can take our time, nothing's gonna happen, there's no calamity if we don't rush or solve the problem. I really feel like there had to have been a higher stake, you know? Have it more apparent that more and more of these dangerous creatures are being produced and spat out into Banuk territory. Have quests or like big story beats where these monsters have come right to Song's Edge? One day I'll remember the name of that establishment. I feel like that would have been a good way of presenting higher stakes and grounding us in the threat of Thunder's drum. But instead, it was just very meh. I kind of feel like some of the side quests were better written than the main quest in the Frozen Wilds. Or maybe just that they rushed it to get something out that they couldn't actually offer a more enriching story, and I feel cheated because of it. Yeah, I think those are my main thoughts. I also kind of would have preferred if we saw more than just the one tribe of Banuk. This entire valley consists of just Song's Edge. That's it. There are no other tribes here. None. So I kind of wish that we'd found more tribes, more settlements, more establishments, because obviously this is not all of the Banuk area. Because the Banuk are more than one tribe. There are multiple tribes, you know, multiple shamans come together for the conclave. Like, they're a big people. But there's just nothing here. There's no one to engage with. There are no settlements. There's no sense of people, a force that stand to lose if something happens from Thunder's drum. So I feel that also is something that could have been brought up. I mean, on the other hand, it's kind of nice. You know, Aloy became the chieftain of the Werak, and so it's kind of low-key like that. Nice. But I just felt if we could have had something else on the map, something else to ground us in Banuk tribes and culture by presenting us a different side of Baduk culture. And just, again, raising the stakes, it's not just about these guys. It's about all of them having imminent danger from this source. That would have been a far more interesting story and world situation. That's a DLC I would have wanted to have played. This, I'm just feeling an overwhelming sense of meh. You know, I took annual leave, I smashed out the base game, but when it came to the DLC, I've just struggled to force myself to play it. I've spanned it out across like another 3-4 weeks because I just couldn't. I've had games that I can't play because I need to finish this first, but I just keep procrastinating and not wanting to play the Frozen Wilds because I just was not interested. That's how much this story did not grip me. It's beautiful. Look at this world. It is so goddamn wonderful to look at. But the story was just not there. The heart of it was, the essence of it was, but there is just so many other greater directions I feel like it could have gone in, but it didn't. So yeah, base game, fantastic. DLC, I would recommend that everybody who just doesn't play it, avoid it. You don't need to play it. It's a waste of time. Just stick to the base game and then head straight to Forbidden West is my recommendation. But you've all here, you've all seen it, so you know, what does my recommendation count for? But anyway, thank you so much guys for sticking around and watching me play the entirety of Horizon Zero Dawn. I hope I got all side quests in both base game and DLC. I probably missed a few, but I feel like I kind of got them all. Let me know if I missed any and what happened in those quests if I did indeed miss them. As I mentioned in the very first episode of the playthrough, I'm not looking to play Forbidden West, preferably until it ports across to PC, because you know how terrible I am already at aiming, even with a mouse, with my arrows, since you've got to be so precise and the creatures move when you're trying to shoot them. It's very difficult, and that's with the mouse. I cannot imagine how difficult it must be with a controller. The only shooting games I ever play on console were Uncharted and like the Tomb Raider games, because they weren't available on PC at the time. Eventually, I think Tomb Raider eventually ported across or something, but just, yeah, they're the only games I really will tolerate playing with controllers that are shooting, because it's too hard for me. I don't have the skill for it. I don't sit there playing COD for like 10 years in a row and I'm exceptionally good at aiming with a controller. That's just not me. So the idea is to wait for it to port across to PC, but that could take years, plural, and I also don't know that I'm prepared to wait years. So you could very well find 5 months down the track that I get an itch to play Forbidden West and I end up getting it on PS5. But do know that even if I do start it on normal, there is a very high chance I would drop it down to easy or very easy if that's what even are the difficulty settings here? Settings, difficulty, normal, easy, story. Ha! Boom. You know it. I would totally pop it on story. Or easy. I mean, they're two decent options. That didn't save, did it? No, whatever. It's like I'm playing anymore anyway. Yeah, so why are you updating my tutorial? Did the tutorials change depending on the difficulty of the game? That's weird. But anyway, so if I do cave in and play it on console, be prepared for it to be on an insanely easy difficulty, because I'm there to enjoy the game, not struggle. And I have a feeling it's going to be struggle straight the entire way. But anyway, once again, thank you so much for watching this series. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope my frustration, particularly towards the end and realizing that Aloy doesn't actually get stronger when she levels up, didn't annoy you too much. The way I was annoyed. But in any case, thanks so much guys, and I'll see you next time.